Welcome back. We're ready for another episode of Slot Journal. On my track, part of it runs up through what I call like an old medieval city. So we've got some streets as part of the track layout. And what I'm going to show you today is just kind of how I did some of those streets. There's some cobblestone areas and sidewalks, curbs, things like that. And we need to lay the track around that and get that set up, so we'll add some buildings later. So I'm going to show you how I do that today, and maybe do a few other fun things too. Okay, so what we're going to do today is, first I'm going to show you a section of the street scene that I've kind of completed. I'll show you a section that I'm going to do and make a template for that we're going to actually work on. And once I show you that, then I'm going to go on the computer and I'll kind of show you how I actually found that cobblestone pattern, what I had to do to make it ready to print and use. So let's go ahead and get started and we'll show you how we did that. Now here's a section that I've completed. This is behind the medieval wall. The area in the background is going to be the area that we're working on. So the question becomes, how do we get from plain to something like this? Well, first of all, you take a piece of paper like this. You need a template. And you slide it underneath the track into this area like here. Then basically you'll draw around it. It may take a few pieces of paper to do that, to make this thing, and you can tape it together, but you get yourself a template made of that space. Then what that gives you is something like this. So you take that piece of paper, take that piece of paper, and then you'll have a template for your section here like this. So then you take the template, and what I had to do is you'll take a piece of foam core, because we need some thickness here. Take that foam core, put the template on the foam core, and here I actually had to use a few pieces of foam core to make a piece this big, because I just had scraps at this point. Doesn't matter, because this is all going to get covered anyway. And then you use that template to cut your piece, and then this is going to be the base. And for the buildings, it will go across here, and you'll have some of this cobblestone, which will cover most of this anyway. So that's what I'll use for that. So you can see what we do here to make this. And then the next step then will be to cover this with our base, and we'll go from there. So we took that template and obviously used it to cut out our shape we needed for this city block and foam core. And then what I did was we applied some paper I had, and actually what this is you go on Google image search and just do an image search. In this case, it was just for, cobblestone pattern. And I found a cobblestone pattern, put it on a 11 by 17 shape. You have to, adjust the sizing a little bit and just print it out. And this is a heavier, like 100-pound cardstock. So they just cut shapes out of this and apply it, on the on this particular city block, this section. Now the area over here, there's nothing. Buildings are going to come out and cover all that, so you'll never see that. So this would be like a very wide, like cobblestone sidewalk. The street, the road course itself will be here. I have some other shapes here. I'll probably put some kind of like sewer grate here. I have a small fountain, which you'll find a lot in, medieval towns will go in this space. So that's where we are right now. Now, one thing I did with these, and I'll show you how I do that here. This curb is actually weather stripping. It comes like this, and you can just pull it apart. Actually, this is pretty useful because you could use this for a guardrail. It's very soft. But I take one part of it and I lay this down around the curb to make a curb. And then basically what I did here is I can see it's gray, and I took a little bit of paint just to give it a little bit of color, just a little wash. And then what I do normally is then I'll just separate these into like separate curbstones like this. We'll just do that all the way around. And again, just to give it a little more definition, give it a little better look. Do that all the way around. Then once this is together, we'll drop it in place and seal it, and then we'll go ahead and work on putting buildings on here. We'll get that a little bit later because again, we're getting close to the point where I'm going to pull that tape and put some copper tape down on those rails. All right, before we go too much farther, I want to take a couple minutes to just kind of show you how we get that cobblestone effect that we print out and use for our cobblestone streets or walks. Basically we just do a Google search for an image. In this case, it was just cobblestone walkway or cobblestone pattern or texture. Find one we like. Sometimes you'll click into it. You can just do a right click and open it in a new tab. In this case, we got that. Looks pretty good. There's a light pattern on this that's not going to show up at the scale we're going to use it. So this should be just fine. So we find something we want to use, we'll take it. We just basically, it's a cut and paste process. Cut this shape out that we want to use. And then we'll take it into our graphics program. Again, this is Microsoft Photo Draw. It's an old graphics program, but there are a lot of cheap ones you can use, or even free graphics program that allow you to do the same things I'm doing right here. The various procedure might change a little bit from one to the other, but the basic actions you'll take here are all the same. So we take this texture, we drop it in to get it to fit. Now I've set this up to fit on 11 by 17 sheet because I like a nice large section to work on. And this is a little bit large, so to make this fit to scale, I'm going to reduce that a little bit so it'll fit better with a 132 scale and look a little bit more realistic. So we start with that basic section, and what we're going to do is then copy that. When we take that, we'll copy it, paste it, then we place another one next to it. Now the trick here is, and this does take a little bit of skill, but you can get the hang of it. We don't want those seams to be showing. We want it to try to blend in as best as we can. So get it there, and you just play around with it a little bit till you get the way you want it. But you want to try to avoid those seams showing between each section. So you put another one here, and basically you repeat that procedure. To make it easier, what you can do is just copy the whole thing, but paste two together, just save you some time. And again, get that seam the way you want it so it doesn't show up so much. That was a oops. And then we have a section that we can use, goes all the way across the page. And what I'm going to do here is I just like to crop this to keep it neat. So I'll take a section of this and just trim it a little bit so it doesn't go off the end. And then you'll just take this, and then you have, one section that looks pretty good built out of those four sections. And you're going to copy them all. And then just paste another one in there. Again, we're going to get that one. Now we want to get that one, that seam fixed up a little bit. Again, another oops. We got to undo that. I'm going to get these all so they're all in one piece. And we're going to take that and we're going to flip it, move it behind it, and again we're going to work it to try to get that seam so it doesn't show up so much. So one side of this was a little bit better than the other in the edge. So again, Got that seam the way we pretty much want it, and it looks pretty good. So what this gives us is a nice piece of 11 by 17 that we can use for a cobblestone walk. We can, cut it out, piece it together, use it however we want. So we're just going to save that. Now, there are some other things you can do. You may want to change things up a little bit with this. You're going to take a look at it. In this case, this particular one we have here is it's a little blue. So, maybe you want to change the color up, or maybe it's a little bit too dark. And again, this is a pretty simple process on any one of these graphics programs. If you want to make some changes, you can do that. So in this case, what we'll do with this one, we'll take it and we'll go to some, do some colorization tricks on it. Maybe want to adjust the color a little bit. In this case, you can go a little red, you can go a little gray. You can work on it a little bit that way. Change the darkness, the contrast. Do that here. You can see we're going to increase the contrast a little bit, make the brick pattern stand out a little bit more. And once you get it exactly the way you want it, then just do another save as, and you can go ahead and print it. You can set this up as an 8.5 by 11 too. It doesn't have to be 11 by 17. Anything that'll fit your printer. And I usually do this on some kind of a cardstock. This is an example of the one I actually did use. I selected for myself, just a little bit different colorway. I thought would work a little bit better with what I had in mind. But again, the choices here are pretty much unlimited. So some of you may be asking, what's come into the garage lately? Well, here's one that just came in today. In fact, I want to share with you. Normally, I am not a DTM guy. I only have a couple. I had this Audi, just came in today, which is a really nice looking Carrera model. It just depends. I thought this one was really nice looking car. I really like this flat black paint scheme on this. I also had the same car, this Audi in a SCX version, and I'm kind of anxious to just try those out together to see how they perform. And I think I have an Audi TT, DTM as well, but those are about the only three I have. But again, just wanted to share with you today something that came in, typical Carrera. It's a heavy car, golly, I can tell it is, but hey, they all are, right? So we're anxious to get that one on the track and see how it runs. If you like more of this content, you can visit us at slotjournal.com. It's our primary hub. You'll also find the Slot Journal swag store there. You can also visit us on Instagram at Slot Journal and on Facebook at slot.journal. As always, we do appreciate your comments, and we hope that you'd like and subscribe, and if you want to, suggest us to your friends. Thanks. Well, normally this is a time when I might, talk a little bit about some things I've seen on the internet or on YouTube or whatever. And this time around, I'd like to give a shout out to some of our friends in Europe, in Austria and Germany. If you follow the hobby, you know that these are real hotbeds of the hobby, especially because it's like the home of Carrera. Slot racing is really big over there. And it's, so it's natural that you would find some great, YouTubers over there who have some really great content. So I want to highlight a few of them here. First of all is our good buddy Nico, the slot car dude. Nico's a great guy, has a lot of great content. He's really supportive. He's reached out to me, and we usually, go back and forth with each other's videos. I'm sure you've probably seen him in some of the live streams. He's usually there as well. So I would encourage you to check out Nico's page. He's got a lot of good content on, like tuning for racing, car reviews, all kinds of great stuff. So I definitely go check him out. Another fellow is Hubert, who has his slot car fun. And Hubert, normally his videos are in German, but I'll show you in a couple minutes how we can get around that. But he's got some great content. Has a really great collection of cars. He's been collecting for a while, obviously, and he likes to show them off and show other aspects of his track and things like that. So he's another great guy. You should definitely check him out. And the third fellow is Roland, who has the slot.it, German slot blog. And Roland has a lot of videos, another great site. He has a lot of content. He goes into his club racing he does, talks about cars and various aspects of slot car hobby that I'm sure you would all be interested in. Again, his content is in German, but you can get around that. And what I'm going to show you right now is how we do that using YouTube's handy auto translate. Now, sometimes you may go on YouTube and you'll come across a slot car video that kind of looks interesting, but you look at it and it's in a foreign language. Maybe it's a blogger from Germany. It could be from Spain, South America, some other country, and think, wow, that looks really interesting, but I don't know those languages. Well, there's a way around that will allow you to at least get something out of that video. And here's an example. This is Roland from the Slot Blog, Germany. But what you do in a case like this, obviously he's speaking in German. You go to turn on the captions. Okay, so they have a German caption. Then you go to settings, and you go to, now it's German, it's auto-translated. Go to auto-translate. Scroll down to English, and then you'll get an English subtitle. So now, I can turn down the volume because I don't need it. And you'll see that it's translated fairly well into English, so you can at least understand what it is he's talking about. So this is something I suggest you try so you can get something out of this content, because again, there's a lot of it out there, and there's no sense just letting it go by. You can get a lot out of this stuff and learn a lot, and there's a lot of really rich content here. So try this sometime. It doesn't always work, but usually it does. Well, that's pretty much it for this episode. I hope I was able to provide you with something that's going to be useful for you. We've got a lot of stuff, updates, new information coming. I've got, episodes on track lighting, how I can make some track lights out of a cheap ballpoint pens like this, how to do landforms, shaping mountains and hills. I've got some town buildings created. We'll show you how we did that, how to do a tunnel and some bridges. And every medieval city needs a stone wall, so I'll show you the techniques I use to do that as well. So again, we've got a lot of stuff coming up for you. It just takes time to edit it and get it out there. So we've got a lot to look forward to. But until next time, keep your hand firmly on the trigger, and if in doubt, step on it.